Have you ever met someone who almost seems invisible online? No selfies, no birthday posts, no constant updates about where they went or what they ate. In an age where most people share every detail of their lives, these quiet individuals stand out precisely because they don't. But psychology suggests that this silence isn't random. It often reveals deep insight into their confidence, mindset, and emotional maturity. Let's explore what it really says about someone who chooses not to post their photos on social media. First, it usually comes down to one powerful preference: privacy over popularity. In today's attention-driven world, where validation often comes in the form of likes, shares, and comments, choosing privacy is almost an act of rebellion. Psychological studies show that people who avoid posting pictures are often more protective of their personal boundaries. They value control over what they show, what they hide, and how others perceive them. It's not about being antisocial or secretive. It's about maintaining peace of mind. These individuals understand that not everything valuable needs to be displayed. While others crave the dopamine rush of digital approval, they find satisfaction in quiet self-acceptance. Their self-worth doesn't depend on numbers, hearts, or comments. They find comfort in knowing who they are, even when no one is watching. That's the foundation of genuine inner security. Second, they tend to possess a clear and stable sense of identity. Research in personality psychology refers to this as self-concept clarity, the ability to understand oneself without confusion or constant comparison. People who rarely share personal pictures often have a solid internal compass. They don't need to project an image to validate their existence. They know their goals, their boundaries, and what genuinely fulfills them. Instead of chasing online trends or copying what everyone else is doing, they act in alignment with their core values. Their happiness isn't built on virtual applause but on internal peace. When someone's sense of self is strong, they no longer need the world to mirror it back to them. They live for meaning, not for attention. Third, their silence online can actually signal emotional stability. Psychologists describe this as secure self-esteem, the kind of confidence that doesn't need to be constantly fed by external recognition. People with secure self-esteem are comfortable being unseen. They don't post photos to prove that they're doing well or to remind others of their existence. Their sense of worth doesn't vanish when the spotlight fades. They are grounded and consistent, with confidence that survives without validation. According to emotional intelligence research, these people are often calmer under pressure, less likely to compare themselves to others, and more focused on real-world goals rather than digital impressions. Their confidence whispers instead of shouting, and that's what makes it powerful. Fourth, people who don't post much tend to be deeper thinkers. They're introspective, the kind of minds that process quietly before speaking or sharing. When they do post, it's not out of impulse or boredom, but because something genuinely matters to them. This comes from a psychological trait called an internal locus of evaluation, which means they judge themselves based on their own beliefs, not the opinions of others. They ask, "Do I think this is meaningful?" rather than, "Will people like this?" That difference shapes how they move through life. Instead of chasing digital attention, they pursue genuine understanding. Instead of curating a perfect image, they live in authenticity. These are the people who would rather have one deep conversation than 100 meaningless interactions. They value depth over display. Fifth, they see through the illusion that dominates social media. They understand that what people post online is not real life, it's a carefully edited highlight reel. Psychologists call this phenomenon social comparison theory, the tendency to measure our worth against the exaggerated lives of others. But people who don't post their photos have usually stepped out of that cycle. They understand how endless scrolling can distort self-image and create unnecessary dissatisfaction. So, instead of competing in that unspoken popularity contest, they consciously opt out. They protect their peace by not playing the game at all. They prefer to live quietly and fully in the moment rather than turn every experience into content. They value mental clarity more than digital visibility. There's also another layer: awareness of how performance culture shapes identity. Many people online subconsciously perform for an audience, adjusting how they smile, dress, or speak to fit expectations. But those who rarely post detach themselves from that pressure. They understand that the more you build your identity around others' approval, the less you truly know yourself. So they choose not to perform. They choose to be real, even if no one's watching. That doesn't make them mysterious or cold. It often makes them more authentic, because their energy goes into living rather than displaying. In a psychological sense, people who don't post their photos often live with a form of digital minimalism, the belief that technology should serve their peace, not consume it. They use social media consciously, not compulsively. They might still enjoy scrolling, watching, or appreciating others' creativity, but they don't feel the urge to constantly participate. Their relationship with technology is intentional, not addictive. They see social media as a tool, not as a stage. What's fascinating is that this quiet approach often leads to stronger mental health outcomes. Studies on social media behavior show that people who post less frequently experience lower levels of anxiety and self-comparison. When your self-image isn't constantly under public review, your mind relaxes. You stop performing and start living. You begin to enjoy privacy, silence, and the freedom that comes with not needing to be seen. So the next time you come across someone whose profile looks almost empty, no pictures, no celebrations, no constant updates, don't mistake it for insecurity or shyness. In many cases, it's the opposite. It's self-assurance in its purest form. It's emotional intelligence that refuses to depend on virtual applause. These people often have deeper, richer inner worlds than what could ever be shown on a screen. They don't need to broadcast their lives to prove their worth. They don't post to be noticed. They live to be present. While others chase visibility, they chase meaning. While others seek followers, they seek peace. They understand that real confidence doesn't demand to be seen, it simply is. They don't need validation, because they validate themselves every day through their actions, choices, and values. And that's a level of freedom most people online never reach. So if you've ever felt out of place for not posting your photos, remember, you're not missing out. You might just be operating on a different frequency, one where authenticity, awareness, and emotional balance matter more than social recognition. In a digital world obsessed with exposure, invisibility can be a sign of strength. And if you're fascinated by why people think and behave the way they do, by the quiet patterns that shape human psychology, then keep exploring. Because understanding these subtleties doesn't just reveal others, it helps you understand yourself. Here, we don't just scroll through people's profiles. We look deeper. We decode minds, not timelines.